Hi there, it seems like you've touched on a very hot and controversial topic for your last video. It seems you've already received 3 video responses and over 100 comments posted for that Sudan video. I'd just like to add, however, as you've noticed, I actually left some comments for your previous video preceding this last one, titled "May I Call You a Terrorist?" Basically challenging your assumption that Islamist terrorism is born out of oppression, land grabbing, alleged colonialism, thus leaving them in poverty, desperate and having nothing to lose, and therefore they become fanatical and commit acts of unspeakable barbarism, and then you basically repeat the old assumption that one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Basically, as you probably know, my response to that, my written response, I posted up at least 4 or 5 comments to that last video. I disagreed with that assumption. I said, not only, with all due respect of course, not only is that assumption dead false and dead wrong, it's also quite dangerous. Now, I think you misunderstood me. I brought up Darfur, the Sudan, as one out of many examples. I didn't bring that up to accuse you of being biased, i.e., for example, saying, you're saying that, look, the Israelis are committing human rights abuses against the Arabs, but at the same time you're ignoring human rights abuses perpetrated by Arabs in, say, places like the Sudan. It's not why I brought up Sudan in the first place. Basically, you misunderstood me. I haven't received an adequate reply from you, and I'm still expecting one, nor did I get an adequate response, or at least a convincing response, from readers who supported your theory. Basically, I brought in Sudan and what's happening in Darfur to challenge your underlying assumption, and I compared that to the terrorists who perpetrated 9/11, the Bali bombings in 2002, as well as the London bombings in 2005, among many other examples, thousands of examples. If you compare these 3 or 4 examples of 9/11, London bombings, etc., to Darfur, it just really crushes your theory, because if you look at 9/11 and you look at all these other acts of terrorism, none of the perpetrators of these attacks were thrown out off their land, had their homes taken from them. They actually, not only did they have their homes and their land intact, but they also came from very privileged and educated backgrounds. And yet they committed these acts of barbarism. Yet in Darfur you've got millions, since I guess 1999, 2000, over 1 million people were massacred and are still being massacred there. And I mean, millions more have been displaced from their homes. Yet no Muslim buses were blown up in retaliation. No Muslim students were massacred in schools in retaliation for that. The Sudanese embassies and consulates and airlines around the world are not under constant terrorist threat like Israeli embassies and consulates and airlines are at the moment. and have been for a while. Also, I mean, Sudan is just one example out of many examples. If we look at what's happening in Israel, I mean, Jews have been massacred by Arab terrorists way before 1967 so-called occupation, and well before the creation of Israel in 1948. If you look at the years from 1929 when the Hebron massacre occurred, right up to the 1930s and 1940s, right up till 1947, tens of thousands of Jews were massacred in various terrorist attacks and bombings perpetrated by Arab terrorists. Now, can you logically say that perpetrators of these attacks against Jews were doing that in retaliation for the Israeli military occupation of the West Bank in 1967? I mean, that entire argument that you presented in "May I Call You a Terrorist" holds no water. And I mean, I'm open to changing my mind. I would like, and I expect to receive a good and challenging response, counter response to that, to prove that what you're saying is right, as well as from people who support your underlying assumption. Finally, one other thing that I'd like to add: you don't have to go out of the Middle East. You don't have to look outside of the Middle East to find examples of barbarism and oppression that's committed by Arabs or in the name of Islam in general. You don't have to look outside of the Middle East at places like Sudan. Just look at what's going on inside the Middle East and inside Arab countries. I mean, if you count the Iran-Iraq War, the Hama massacre, Black September in Jordan, Saddam's massacre of the Kurds, what's happening in Iraq right now, where Sunnis and Shiites are massacring each other, the Lebanon civil war before the Israelis intervened. There's just so many examples. I mean, millions of Muslims throughout the Muslim world, as well as in the Arab world, were being murdered and are being murdered right now by their own co-religionists. So you don't have to look outside of the Middle East or to see what Arabs are doing or what Muslims are doing to other people. Just look at what they're doing inside the Middle East to their own co-religionists and to their own people. And how in the hell are people expecting for Israel and the Jewish people to make peace with a people that are not only at war with many other nations and religions around the world, but are also at war with themselves and can't really make peace with themselves, and really at the end of the day, I hate to say this, have no respect for their own human life and their own civilians. So yeah, that pretty much sums up. I think I've covered everything, and I expect to hear a reply. Thank you so much.